When the people you love betray you, will you crumble or rise stronger than ever? Watch until the very end. You won't believe the twist that transforms heartbreak into an inspiring new beginning. Amelia's heart hammered as she adjusted the pearl earrings her mother had once worn. 67 and still desperate for her daughter's approval, she sprayed her rose perfume and tried to quiet the storm inside her. Today was Grace's wedding day, surely the day they would reconcile. She had sold her wedding ring to buy a fine china set, each plate a silent apology, each cup a plea for connection. But from the moment she arrived, the day was a quiet humiliation. The wedding planner shuffled her to the 5th row, because those seats are for immediate family, and her heart cracked. At the reception, she was banished to table 8 next to the kitchen, surrounded by strangers. She forced a smile, clinging to the fantasy that the evening toast would finally bring the words she had yearned to hear: recognition, gratitude, love. When Grace raised her glass, Amelia held her breath. "Family isn't about blood," Grace declared, her smile bright and cutting. "My chosen family are the ones who make me happy." Applause thundered, but Amelia heard only the silence where her name should have been. Then Grace locked eyes with her mother, the look like ice. "Some people bring only negativity and bitterness," she continued. "Mom, you can leave." 100 faces turned toward Amelia. Her wine-colored dress, so carefully pressed, suddenly felt like a costume. Trembling, she stood. But before she could move, Theodore Grace's groom rose too, his jaw clenched, eyes cold with anger. "What are you doing?" Grace whispered. He took the microphone. "Before her mother leaves, everyone should know the truth." Gasps rippled through the room. Grace tried to stop him, but Theodore's voice grew stronger. He revealed how Grace had painted her mother as bitter and toxic. How she'd ignored calls, rejected messages, and even as Amelia worked 18-hour days and sold her wedding ring to pay for her daughter's education, Grace told her fiancé her mother was a burden. Amelia gripped the chair to stay upright as Theodore described the nights she had nursed Grace's fevers, the years of sacrifice, working as a maid and waitress so her daughter could attend the best university. 3 calls in 3 years, he said, his voice breaking. 3 calls. And tonight, she humiliated the woman who gave her everything. The hall froze. Grace, pale and trembling, tried to speak, but Theodore slipped off his wedding ring. "I cannot marry a woman capable of such cruelty," he said. The crowd roared in shock as Grace collapsed in tears. "Mom, please," she begged, her voice shattered. "Tell him to stay." But Amelia walked out, head high. For the first time in years, she felt not abandoned, but seen. Amelia sat on a cold garden bench as the night air washed over her, her hands still trembling but her spine straighter than it had been in years. Inside, chaos erupted, chairs scraping, whispers rising, but she barely heard it. Her phone buzzed. Victoria's voice came warm and steady. "Feel proud, sister. Someone finally defended your honor." Grace just received the lesson of her life. That night, Victoria took her home. Over chamomile tea, Amelia learned Theodore had always suspected the truth. "He said," Victoria explained, "if you were truly bitter and destructive, how could you raise someone as accomplished as Grace?" The words sank deep, a quiet balm to wounds Amelia had carried silently for decades. The next days blurred. Grace's frantic calls and texts began, pleading first, then accusing, finally manipulating with veiled threats. "Mom, I can't live without Theodore. It's your fault, too. I might do something drastic if you don't help me." Amelia read every word, heart aching, but for once she did not bend. "It's the same old pattern," Victoria warned. "Emotional manipulation." Amelia knew she was right. 3 days later, a disheveled Grace arrived at Victoria's door, hair unwashed, clothes rumpled, eyes red. "Mom, please, I need you." "Theodore left me. I lost my job." "I'm losing my apartment." Amelia stepped forward, her voice firm. "You need me to solve your problems." "But have you asked how I feel? How it felt when you humiliated me?" Grace opened her mouth, then closed it. For years you taught me to put your needs above mine. No more. If you want a relationship, it will be on my terms. First, therapy. Second, reflect on why Theodore left. Third, if one day you want to rebuild, you'll have to start from scratch. Know me not as your problem solver, but as a person. Grace's tears ran hot and real. What if I can't change? She whispered. Then, Amelia said quietly, you will live with the consequences. Like any adult. Grace left, shoulders sagging. For the first time, Amelia did not run after her. 2 weeks later, Theodore called. Mrs. Amelia, he said gently, I wanted to apologize for not seeing the truth sooner, and to propose something. He invited her to a downtown cafe where the air smelled of cinnamon and fresh coffee. I'm starting a community center for women like you, he said, eyes bright with conviction. Women who sacrificed everything and were forgotten. I need someone who understands their strength, their pain. I need you. Amelia's breath caught. But I know nothing about running a center. You know everything about surviving, Theodore replied. You can teach them resilience and love without conditions. He slid blueprints across the table, sunlit rooms, gardens, a small cafe. I don't need your money. I need your heart. Through the window, Amelia watched an elderly woman struggling with grocery bags, a reflection of the invisible life she herself had lived. Something inside her stirred. Do you really think I could do this? She asked. You raised a daughter alone, survived widowhood, worked double shifts, and still loved without receiving love back. If anyone can help these women, it's you. Tears blurred her vision, but they were tears of possibility, not pain. When do we start? She asked. 6 months later, the New Dawn Women's Center opened its doors. Amelia stood before the mirror in an emerald green dress bought with her first salary as coordinator. Her eyes, once dulled by heartbreak, now gleamed with purpose. The center blossomed quickly. 42 women found jobs, 26 completed trade workshops, 15 formed an unbreakable support group. Amelia discovered hidden talents, organizing events, inspiring donors, listening with an empathy that drew women to her like moths to light. One morning, a television producer called. Your story has gone viral, she said. We'd like to feature you on Inspiring Women. On opening day, the crowd buzzed. Journalists, city officials, women whose lives had already been transformed. Theodore, immaculate in a blue suit, whispered, Ready to see your dream come true? Our dream, she corrected, smiling. When it was her turn to speak, Amelia's gaze swept the audience. Memories of that wedding night, the humiliation, the cold stares flashed before her. How different it felt now to stand before people who looked at her with respect. 6 months ago, she began, my own daughter told me I didn't deserve to be at her wedding. I believed my life was over, but I was wrong. That night forced me to discover that my value doesn't depend on anyone's love. My experience, widowhood, sacrifice, survival, has become the foundation for helping others. Tonight, I stand before you not as someone rejected, but as someone reborn. Applause thundered. As Amelia stepped down from the podium, she spotted a familiar face at the back. Grace. Grace lingered at the edge of the crowd, looking nothing like the flawless bride who had once humiliated her mother. Her hair, streaked with gray, was tied back loosely. Her simple dress carried none of her old arrogance. When their eyes met, she offered a timid wave before slowly weaving through the departing guests. Mom, she said, her voice tentative, I wanted to congratulate you. This place, it's incredible. Amelia inclined her head politely. Thank you. I've been following the project online, Grace continued, her eyes shimmering. I'm proud of you. Amelia raised an eyebrow. Proud? That's an unexpected word from someone who once called me bitter and toxic. Grace swallowed hard. I know. I've been in therapy, just like you told me, and I've learned things about myself I'm not proud of. My cruelty came from fear, from guilt over everything you sacrificed. It was easier to make you the villain than face how ungrateful I'd been. Her voice steadied as she went on. I've been volunteering at a women's shelter, At first I thought I was doing it to make it up to you. But then I realized it was for me, to learn what it means to give without expecting anything back. These women remind me of you. Strong, resilient, worthy. Amelia listened in silence. For the first time in years, she saw not arrogance in her daughter's eyes, but humility, the kind that comes from true self-examination. "I'm not here to ask you to forgive me right away," Grace said softly. "I don't want things to go back to how they were because before wasn't healthy for either of us. I'd like to start from scratch. Maybe we can get to know each other as two adult women, not just mother and daughter bound by pain." "And if I'm not ready?" Amelia asked. "Then I'll wait. I've waited 2 years for this conversation." "I can wait longer." Grace spoke of Theodore, now married to a teacher, happy and settled. "I love him enough to be glad he's happy," she said, her smile touched with sadness but free of bitterness. "And if I love you, Mom, I have to respect the incredible life you've built without me." Amelia's heart swelled with a quiet pride. "Grace," she said at last, "if we try again, you must understand, this relationship can only be part of my life. It will never again be the center of my universe. I have a purpose now beyond being your mother." Grace nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "That gives me peace," she whispered. "For years I was afraid of your love because it felt like a responsibility I couldn't carry. But knowing you are whole without needing me frees me to love you without guilt." They sat together, surrounded by the soft murmur of women creating new futures. Amelia finally said, "To be a good mother, I first had to stop defining myself only as your mother. I had to become Amelia, a woman with her own dreams. Only then could I show you what real love looks like." Grace smiled through her tears. "And now?" "Now," Amelia replied, "I can be whatever I choose. And that, my dear, is the most important lesson I can offer. It's never too late to discover who you are when you stop living for someone else's approval." The next afternoon, Grace called, not to ask for help, not to lean on old patterns, simply to ask how Amelia's day had been. They talked for 20 minutes, two women beginning, at last, to know each other without expectation. Amelia hung up and gazed across the bustling New Dawn Women's Center. Women laughed in the workshop rooms, shared stories in support circles, and discovered their own worth. She smiled, knowing her journey from heartbreak to purpose had come full circle, and that the most beautiful chapters were still to be written. If this story moved you, don't stop here. Subscribe and share it now. Someone you know might need this reminder. It's never too late to rewrite your life and find the strength.